We're here at Rocks HQ for an exclusive interview with head coach Tony Garbelotto on behalf of the Sports Club. Myself and Jill will be asking the questions.
Just get started. We kind of discussed this earlier, but how is recruitment sort of coming along? Are we at the stage we want to be at? Are we further ahead, behind?
I'd say on point is probably the best answer of all. I mean, surprisingly, right there. I mean, we're very close to our import situation. We'll then with the trials, like a combination of trials and a couple other things which have to happen in our business, be able to sort out the rest at the end of our bench. Obviously, I feel that we've done a great job with signing Ali straight away anyway, and so yeah, I'm actually extremely happy. If you think about it, we're only the second day of August. For imports, that's really important, because we want to be able to make sure they arrive on the first 2 or 3 days in September. They're ready to start pre-season. But from the rest of the roster, I mean, we're ahead of the game for that as well. So I kind of believe that we might only be 10 days away from almost having everything signed, potentially. We'll say that, and then something will happen. We haven't hit a roadblock yet, but at the moment we're in good shape.
So we heard that the Scotland team have been invited to the Commonwealth Games.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So good thing in your opinion?
I think super thing. I mean, I understand the supporters will quite rightly look and be understandable, like realise that hey, this is going to cause some problems, and it is. First of all, I want to say this: a lot of thought's gone into this. When I came in, it was one of the things that we spent hours talking, deliberating over. I already started a good relationship with Basketball Scotland and Barry and Kevin there, and had numerous meetings. Spoke to Kieran, spoke to Gareth. I think those two guys will be really a bit of my worry, because potentially they will play in 3 different competitions. There'll be GB players, Scotland players, and BBL players, and that's a long season. But as regards the pure mechanics of the Commonwealth Games, I mean, I proposed some stuff to Basketball Scotland of how I see the Rocks being able to be integral to their program, and how we can develop Scottish players and develop the squad for Scotland. I think we're coming to a compromise on that to be able to work both together, which we're working anyway. We have the relationship, and then I understand. We have 2 games scheduled, which is tough. Those 5 guys are going to be gone, but we already have a plan for it. We have a plan to bring in temporary players, probably on a month contract, and to me, with our 3 imports and people like Boris and potentially one other player in the roster, and some younger Scottish players, with 2 other players, I think we're going to be fine. And we know who the competition is. So I understand, it's 2 games. If we were 3rd or 4th or 2nd or 1st and we lose, by 1 game, yeah, it's going to be disappointing. I think, to be honest with you, the only thing that would be the real disappointment is if we were 1st and we dropped the league by 1 game, because we lost 2 games while we were away. And so I fully understand that. But this is more than about Rocks. It's about developing and exposing basketball to people in Scotland. And I think that the team that's been sent to Australia has got a great opportunity, and I think that we should all get behind it. The Federation have been really proactive. They've been very focused. They've got a 2-year plan, and that 2-year plan now can be really put into fruition. So I'm 1,000% behind it. I want fans to know that we have concerns and we have worries, and Duncan, the owner, is one of the first people to be like that. But I think that it's only for the benefit of basketball in Scotland, Team Scotland, and the Glasgow Rocks. So I'm very happy with that situation.
Looking at the BBL as a whole, have you been keeping tabs on other teams' signings? Is there any teams that you're sort of looking forward to playing most? Or?
I mean, Actually, I'm really I really like looking forward to every single one. You know, I mean, been around the league for quite a long time, so to be honest with you, some of the signings have been really impressive. I mean, you know, especially with the lower level teams. As a matter of fact, I was talking to someone today, to an agent, and said, look, the Leeds point guard, you know, is a guy that played at UC Santa Barbara for 4 years. And he's got a really good college career. Now, is he going to be a great player? I don't think so, but he's still a good player. And the Leeds coach, I know, because I employed him in Vietnam. And it's very ironic that he ends up here in the UK. He's a Finnish coach and a high-level guy at that. So, I mean, I can really honestly say I think the league is going to be stronger this year, probably in parity more than anything. There's no question that Leicester and Newcastle have been hurt. They can throw a lot of money at their problem, which is unlike anyone else. But you can't throw. There's only 100,000 would replace Andrew Sullivan. So like they aren't going to replace Andrew Sullivan, but they're still going to be the perennial best team because they've got the facility and everything else. So looking forward to playing them, and looking forward to the Newcastle. Hopefully I can, you know, I mean, I never had any problem being Newcastle in the last 4 or 5 years. I was, you know, I mean, our record against them was probably better than anyone that faced them outside of Rob now. So I'm hoping that this jinx as such is going to be broken pretty soon. Not probably on the Saturday that we played them in pre-season, but you know, for sure, maybe in the second game of the season. I hope to win that second game of the season. So yeah, so I mean, I think positive for the league, and a lot of good people I hadn't faced before. Andreas came in, I think, just after I left. Pretty certain Bristol came in, I think, the year after or 2 years after I left. So really looking forward to face him, and then some of these other younger coaches. Good to see those, the Manchester coach, the Cheshire coach. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
This is quite a long question, I'm sort of breaking down a bit. So what have your impressions been of the Rocks in the BBL since you came back from the last time that you've been, since the last time you were there? Has anything sort of changed?
From a playing standpoint, not much, because obviously Sterling, I was always super respectful, and I always enjoyed. I loved coming to Glasgow. I felt we always had great games. I loved the way Sterling's teams were prepared. He actually was, for me, an easier coach to prepare for than some of the other coaches, because he actually did work. He actually put offenses in, changed defenses, and so I actually enjoyed doing scouting and developing a game plan to beat them. Yeah. Because he was more structured than most coaches. I hated the guys that didn't know what they were doing, because their players didn't know what they were doing, and it's not easy to scout for. So no, I always enjoyed my times here. Obviously, the last time I was here in Glasgow, actually in the arena, was when I brought my German team here to play the pre-season friendly. So that was where I really got to know Daniel much better. So from a basketball standpoint, I don't think much changed from when I was here to where it was now. But from an organisation standpoint, everyone's always, first thing you talk about with the Rocks, you talk about stability, you talk about professionalism and the way they treat people, and then the fact that the city is a world-class city and a world-class arena. So all of those things, the non-basketball things were one of the reasons why I took the job, because there really wasn't many teams that I would come back to in the BBL, if at all. And it had to be a really solid package off the court. I just didn't want to walk into a non-professional situation like I'd encountered in the past.
Yeah. So obviously you've also coached in Vietnam. What was day-to-day life like there, and like the quality of basketball?
It's funny. I just got off the phone to my ex-assistant coach, who is now taking over my job in the domestic league. He hasn't been given my full role yet, but it's funny because it's a unique place. Everyone has a perception, and unless you go there, you don't really understand the reality. The fact is that most people's perception is that it's a third world country, cannot be furthest from the truth. I mean, of course, like in any country, there's poverty, and in some of those Southeast Asian countries, the poverty is extreme. There's no doubt about that. But Vietnam is unique, and it's unique in that region, and thus in the world. Of course, the tragedy of the war wiped out a generation. Now you have this incredible energy from their youth, from this new generation. And we're talking about 30s, who are having their own children. And you know, in Ho Chi Minh City, the city is like it's like on steroids. People are just. I always explain this to people there. My kind of analogy is that people are on the side of the mountain and they're just sprinting down the side of it. You know, they don't walk. They just sprint. They have no clue where they're going. Okay, everything is chaos over there, but they're willing to do something. And I had a great situation there, and a very unique life. I mean, I used to ride a motorbike, and you know, like that was the easiest way to get from one side of the city to the other. And so I used to turn up to games, even, you know, like on my bike, you know, and so did half my team. So it was like a really incredible place. The weather was incredible. So I really enjoyed my 3 years there. Really, really enjoyed it. Met some fantastic people. The job was unique because part of the season, the international part of the season, allowed me to travel throughout the whole Asia region, and we would do that on a weekly basis and play games. We'd have to train to get on a plane to play away games. It was fantastic. Huge crowds, really, really like crazy supporters. So yeah, very, very interesting, and like a great period of my life.
Sounds quite interesting, actually.
Was indeed.
Yeah. This is the last one from me before I pass on to Jamie. It's a bit of a random one. Like, so those that know me know that I'm a massive Houston Rockets fan.
Right, okay.
So you have to be careful with your answer here.
Sure.
If you could pick to sign James Harden or Russell Westbrook, who would you pick?
That's a good question. I love watching those guys play. I'll say this: I'd probably pick Russell Westbrook just because I think he's a freak of nature. Just the way he plays, like, you know, like just lights out. And I know that doesn't sound good for a Houston Rockets fan, but the only thing I will say about both of them is I don't think they'll ever win a championship, because I just think that those guys require the ball, and their usage rate is just like astronomically bad. You know, like the amount of time of possession, you know, that they have the ball in their hands. I don't see how you can develop a team concept, and I think that's why Kevin Durant left. I think that there's no question about that. I think he doesn't want to say it. I think he just did it because he realized that he was never ever going to win with that guy. I think they're two of the most incredible basketball players that will ever play, but I just don't know. You know, they're just not my type of player, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm more of a Kevin Durant guy, a guy that, you know, is really refined, can still score 40, but you don't even realize he's doing it. So, but yes, I'm sorry. I mean, obviously when Chris Finch was there, you know, I was a pure Houston Rockets fan. Now, not so much. So.
Your answer there just leads to another question that's not on the paper. In your opinion, just you're saying that they don't suit the team structure. What would you put as a priority? They don't say, both of them needs to be, you know, in a parity, ability or effort commitment.
It's a good, great question. Really good question. At that level, I mean, you when you look at both of those players, I mean, James Harden's a little bit more up and down. He had that bad season, and they came back with a different coach, and the system was working perfectly. It'll be great to see how him and Chris Paul play together this year, because they both need the ball in their hands. It's going to be great. But you know, like, how can you ever how can you say anything about Russell Westbrook's commitment to the game? He plays the game at like the most craziest intensity of, you know, any type of play.
Yeah, that wasn't a question.
I'm talking about his ability. But our level, It's a great question. So I'll answer it like this. Talent, you absolutely cannot win without talented players. But the key is to find talented players that are going to play hard on every single play.
Yeah.
So you can sacrifice a little talent for the super hard work and the effort on every single play. But it only gets to that kind of at our level, it kind of gets to there's like a cutting point, and so I'll give you an example of a player that you both know, all of you know, Trey Moore. I mean, Trey was never the absolute hardest working player. He'd take a lot of possessions off in the games. He'd be lazy at times on defense. And if you ever remember the time where I beat the Rocks in the final of the playoff championships, my team had gone for almost 3 months playing zone, and we've been playing 2.5 to 3 months of zone because we had to hide Trey. He wouldn't play any defense. He'd just keep on just gambling, and he wouldn't try.
Yeah.
And yet, you can say, you've seen it with your own eyes, he's a killer. As a guy that would be able to take massive big shots and score 20, 30, 40 points at times, with his eyes closed. And so, at our level, for sure, sometimes those talented players can succeed.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your goals for this season? Obviously, the fans want to win silverware. It's what we dream of. But do you think it's an achievable goal in your first year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I wouldn't go into any season, even when I have a team that I'm not sure about, without the goal of, competing. So the word I use is we want to compete for all of the 4 trophies. So we want to be trying to win the league. We want to be competing right there. We want to give ourselves the best opportunity to win the cup, the trophy, and the playoffs. So for me, it's not about saying our best opportunity is to win the cup, because it's a very easy route. It's basically 3 games and you're in the final. Same for the trophy, just one game more. For me, it's about putting this team together where we can compete on every single night and we can put ourselves in that position. I honestly believe that with the players that we got, that we should be able to do that. Now, continuity, getting to know each other, different system, all of these kind of things come into play. I don't know, but I think that we're going to have the players that could do that, based on last year's performances, based on last year's squad versus this year's squad, based on the league and how it's changed and stuff. But who's to know? I mean, someone like Worcester could get a Will Creedmoor type player and have put that core that they put together and could blow everyone away. It could be us that does that. So, but for sure, I can tell the fans one thing, that we will compete for every piece of silverware, and I'm hopeful that if we put ourselves in a position, then we will be able to win something for sure.
Have yourself and Duncan sat down and decided on set targets for the year? Or there's rumours
Duncan wants to win something this year, and I mean, as an owner, he should be saying that. I mean, I don't want to be around anyone, including the players, who don't want to win. So, to be honest with you, I don't feel any more pressure. That he wants to win something. He says we should win something. He's right. We should win something. This is a big franchise, and it's got, in my view, the best core. So, in my view, there's no reason to be able to say that. Now, it's my job that when we start in early September is to install certain principles. I think the biggest difference that the fans will see is they'll see, from the defensive end. I mean, that's where, like I said, I thought Sterling's team were really well prepared, and I thought that from an offensive standpoint, the execution was outstanding. Defensively is where you're going to see the biggest improvements, in the fact that we're going to compete in every single play, and it's going to be different to most teams in this league. So it's going to be hard to beat, and hopefully we'll have enough talent to work it out and integrate all those players together from the offensive end.
Okay, so recently we did an interview with Ali Fraser for the Sports Club page. Ali said in the German they're going to play the role that 2 Germans must be in the court all the time. It helps develop young talent in the league, and we were wondering, do you think such a role would be good over here, and if so, which 2 Germans would you sign?
Well, Germans or you?
No, obviously the homegrown.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I wish it was over here because we got the 2 best British players. Okay, but I kind of they actually there's a reason they do that, and it is a really, really good reason. It's hard to say where it would get replicated, how it would get replicated here. I'm kind of a little frustrated with purely how, you know, I came back. First week I started recruiting, the thing that shocked me the most was the amount of passport holders we now have trying to get a job here. I'm talking about Canadians with British passports, Australians with British passports, American with British passports. It's crazy. I mean, there are so many. There's going to be so many of them. There's going to be too many for too few jobs.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, because once upon a time, those guys were the most important players you could try to find. You know, like when I won that time against you guys, in that final I had Jerome Gums, who no one had heard of, and it had a British passport that was American and had the British Virgin Islands passport. So those guys now are almost a dime a dozen. Plymouth stocked their whole team with them. So from my perspective, that's why I'm like very proud of what we're trying to achieve here. I think that teams, you know, should need to really try to get out of that and really promote British players, pure British players like the Connor Washingtons, the Jerome Anderson, what's his name? Jamel Anderson, and all of the other British players that, you know, Ryan Jackman, all of these guys that potentially, you know, are in teams. So those guys are fine, Darius Defoe, but at the same time, more need to be in those positions.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think our league and our federation are kind of strong enough to really drive that through. I don't think the owners would allow it. I think that there would be a lot of opposition. But from the Glasgow Rocks point of view, it would be the greatest thing ever to happen. So
it's been quite well set up for it.
Yeah, because we're well set up for it, exactly. So but that's my view on it.
Okay, thanks. So when you coached Newcastle Eagles in 2000-2002, did you see Fab becoming the coach back then that he is now? Was he looking to learn and develop as a coach at the time, and if so, do you see anyone with similar traits currently in Glasgow right now?
So the answer to that question is really good. That's the first time I've ever been asked that. So the simple facts were, most people don't know the story, the full story. I have one of the best relationships with Paul Blake, the owner of Newcastle, and have done for almost 20 years. What I did is, you know, the thing that I did there was put a real structure in place. So like I do when I go to most teams, I build their structure, medical, strength and conditioning, some of the business aspects, community. So I was there right at the start, things like Hoops for Health and a lot of things that they developed. I then put the structure in place for the team, and that team was people like TJ Walker, Jeremy Hyatt, Fab, and then I had Malcolm, and I had a couple others that I'm trying to think who else I had on that team, which was an exceptional team. And we only lost to Chester, the team that swept all 4 trophies, like 4 times. And I think we lost two times in the cup and the trophy. We finished 4th, I think, and then if I'm not mistaken, we lost to Brighton in the semi-finals on a tip-in from Wilbur Johnson. I remember it because it crushed me.
Is he not that it still stings or
anything?
anything?
Well, I remember it because it was at Coventry Sky Dome. It was one of those like semi-finals now that they played like a one-off game, and I remember it because we had somehow got ourselves back in and went to overtime, and we were 2 up, and they had a free throw. They had 2 free throws, and we were 2 up. I think we had purposely fouled them, and he made the first, and he missed the second, and we didn't box out. Ian White didn't box out, and they came over the back, tipped it in, and won on the buzzer. It's crazy. So, at the end of that season, I had 2 contracts, one that sat in one in tray and one that sat in the other. It's a true story. It's an absolute true story. I had an actual inbox in trays, and on one side was the Birmingham Bullets offer, and the other side was the Newcastle offer from Paul. And I was too young at that time, and I chose to go to coach in Europe stupidly, and turned down 20 years of success. But I think Fab probably took some of my defensive stuff, but he is his own person. I've never met a driven person like him ever. No one that knows him, Nigel Lloyd, and I'm trying to think, Clive Allen, all of the guys that know him as a player could never foresaw what he has done. And the only thing I will say is that right time, right place, a little bit like how I certainly feel back here, is that there's no way that Fab achieves what he's achieved without Paul Blake.
Yeah.
And there's no way Paul would have achieved without Fab. And one point I want to make, and this is the most important point to the story, because it's never really been written, and I don't even know if people like Dave Forrester know the real story, and they're there. But it was Paul's decision, and Paul called me when I was on my way down to Birmingham to basically sign my contract, and he was like, "What do you think, Tony?" "I'm thinking of putting Fab as the player coach." And you remember, Paul was the one that actually started that revolution, because then people like Atiba and Sterling all became player coaches.
Yeah.
But it was Paul that pushed it, that took their chance. No one else ever had a player coach up until that moment. So, Fab's his own person, and he has a unique system which he has installed there. The only thing that I can take credit for is that I helped him get Andrew Sullivan, which helped him win their first trophy, and then I helped him get Perry and Darius, because they were my players from the academy when I'd gone back to Hackney. So that's the only thing that I can take credit for, apart from having those other players. I had some involvement, let's just put it that way. Yeah.
Grant, do you think there's anyone in Glasgow you can see potentially? Maybe Kieran, Gareth eventually becoming?
Gareth.
Not seeing the same standard.
No. I mean, Gareth. I hope there is. I mean, Gareth certainly showing a lot of aptitude and wants to coach. I think Kieran is more of a. I see Kieran 1,000% being in some sort of federation role, much higher in the future. He's, talking to him, he has a very, very unique perspective on how basketball should be developed, and the world of basketball and stuff. So definitely see him going more back route. And Gareth does enjoy coaching, and I think that he's certainly someone that you can look for the future. But I will say that if things go to plan, because at the moment we're still in negotiations and talking and going through things, but if things go to plan, we will have 2 Scottish assistant coaches, and I think that's really important for the future, to try to get those guys to, that's one of my commitments here, to try to develop coaching in Scotland.
That kind of leads into the next question. Obviously, with Eric Olsen leaving as an assistant, somebody you see the priority to bring in, and if so, you mentioned these 2 Scottish coaches. Are they, it's hard to define it, maybe one, people you chosen specifically, they just happen to be Scottish, or is this kind of a connection with Scotland?
At the moment, we're as a group, that involves Daniel, the GM, Duncan, the owner, and then the Federation, Basketball Scotland with Kevin and Barry. Everyone's involved in the process. I went through right at the start that I came in, trying to get to know who were the best and most talented young Scottish coaches, and we identified them, and we kind of working through the list. We've got a couple of hurdles to get over first, but if it goes the way that we want, so I mean, I have a commitment to that, and I think it's only the right thing to do.
So would it be a similar setup with the Federation in respect that Eric was the Basketball Scotland coach and our assistant, or is it different?
At the moment, that's like a 2BC.
Yeah.
We're looking at a variety of situations, and it is complicated because now we know one of our key decision points was last week. Whether the team was definitely going to Australia or not. And now we know it's definitely going to Australia. Now we have a route trying
Firm
to
route to follow.
yeah, a much more firmer route to follow. So we're working at this moment to look at what is best for both situations, both Arsenal Scotland, the Team Scotland, and the Glasgow Rocks. But I think that we know what this should happen. It's just if we can get it all worked out. Yeah.
Another question that's not on the paper, but we keep getting asked all the time. The Sports Club and other fans keep asking. We're not asking for names. We're not asking for any whatsoever anything from. But everyone keeps asking where we're at with recruitment. Can you give them any kind of positive or any?
Yeah, real close. I mean, I would say that by early next week that we start the process of naming our roster. Official announcements for sure. Very close with the imports. Very close to trying to get the back end of the squad worked out. The trials on Saturday will have some bearing on that. Just see what would happen. I mean, Boris came in last year, so is there another Boris there that we can add to the roster and stuff? Slightly complicated because of Team Scotland and Australia. Because I get asked this quite a bit. Hey, is there ex-Scottish national team player? Shouldn't he be in? Well, here's the problem now. You can really only go with 5 senior Scottish players, because like if there's a 6 or 7, so what, we're going to lose 7 to Australia? No, it can't happen like that. So I'm very, very focused on that. I know exactly where we are. That's why Boris is an important player for us. Not just because I think that he has the capability to improve and to contribute, but I think that we definitely can need him in the month of
You mentioned him twice now, and I was trying not to let the cat in the bag in any way. So should we cut this or?
Could not. I mean, no. I mean, we're hoping that it's going to get done. So that's the most important thing. I mean, we're at this moment, it's very simple to explain. We have Gareth, we have Kieran, we have Ali, we have Johnny. And at the moment, other than that, we're limited in our contract giving for a number of reasons. There's some business reasons, and there's also some basketball strategic reasons. But I think that within the next 7 to 10 days, that whole recruiting situation will come to a head, and we're right there. We just need to get a few things signed off, both from, like I said, business side and also from the Arsenal side.
Yeah, we're not far off done. If you could implement one rule that you've encountered in any of the other leagues you've coached in, what would it be and why?
Well, that's a good question. Not so much a rule. I just think that we've got to become more professional in the standards that we keep as a league. Something I always was pushing for when I was here last, and I'm probably not believing that they've gone much further.
Like standards?
Standards, I'm talking about access to court. The classic example was Chester. They would be hiring the court, in a short period of time, and you wouldn't. Most teams should be giving you 2 to 3 hours to warm up on. Yeah. They were giving you like an hour, and even then it was being pushed at times. The standard of the courts has got better because some teams have moved into new facilities, locker room facilities. I'm happy to see some things have changed, like synergy, so you're able to watch video. The games are all online and stuff. So I mean, for me, I just think that we've got to try to improve our standards. If there's one thing that I would want to change in BBL, it's pretty simple. I think that the league should go to strict home and away. Okay, I've said that now for almost 15 years. This 3 games against each other confuses fans, makes the schedule lopsided. To me, it should be home and away, and then if we want more games, we should make our cup competitions bigger. So we should just, have two pools of 4 or 8, 5, whatever the numbers are, and then
playoffs you could it's higher seed wins.
Well, the playoffs are another issue as well. Another thing that should be changed, and running the playoffs absolutely at this moment should be a 3-game series, and it's not unconceivable now that just look at the teams that were there last year. maybe this club would have struggled a little bit to have got the Emirates 2 times in a row, potentially. Like if you played last year and got smashed in that game down in London, the game 2 you come back and win, and then you play the game 3, or you play home away home, whatever it's going to be. But I don't see now the top 4 teams. Would have been Leicester would have been able to do it easy. Newcastle a little tougher, but they're on their way to getting their own place anyway. Glasgow, and then I think 4th was it Worcester with a 4th. Worcester, or I don't know who was 4th, but anyway. London. I think no, it couldn't be London because you played London. So Worcester were 4th. Sheffield or Worcester, and maybe they're struggling in Sheffield, but Worcester could have done it. That has to happen. I mean, it just has to be. You can't just keep playing these 2-legged games. There's no benefit to it, and then also, if there's no prize money, then you should be playing more games so you can make more money. It's facts.
But also from a fan's perspective, like you say, we get absolutely annihilated down in London. And the most positive for Rocks fans, well, we can do this, keep believing, hashtag and all that. But the reality is, your average fan who is kind of lukewarm to the sport wouldn't go to a second leg.
Yeah, that was just silly. So those are the things, higher standards and playoff basketball. The at least 3-game series playoffs.
So where do you see yourself in the Rocks in 5 years' time? We're not saying what would be on. Where would you see?
I mean, what I'm hopeful when I come into a job is that I really would like to see some sustainability of just success both on and off the court. So I hope to be able to grow the club from a Basel perspective, and then work with Daniel and Duncan to grow the club. There's no question that, we talked about it, there's been, a lot, the club has been very stable and very professionally run. At the same time, there's been limitations to that, and I think that's not anyone's personal fault. I just think that the club has a huge scope. It's the only team in the city. Yes, the ice hockey team's had some success, and the rugby team's doing well from far, but I think there's a place here, and you can just see by what Duncan's done with those ad boards, the Forest Group sponsorship deal. This is a big thing, and so I think that I hope to be able to grow fan base. I hope to be able to grow basketball success, and then I hope to be able to help off the court as well. We're gonna put some legacy things in place. So I think my two personal pet projects for this year were going to be academy, because I'm shocked that the club doesn't have an academy, so I'm going to try to work on that, and then, which I'm already actually working with the federation on, and then a school of basketball program, which is kind of in place, but I'd like to restructure that because I'd like to see more players coming through.
So ironic, that brings us to the last question there. The last question is written down as when we first met him last summer, but you've now spoken of him again. You spoke of legacies in Glasgow, so using the word is quite ironic. If you could handpick your legacy right now in an ideal world, what would the legacy in a post-Tony era be?
I think the legacy is it has been in some of these other places, like when I went to Newcastle and even to a lesser extent Everton, which is unfortunate that situation never continued, is to try to bring success, and then for the players and for people to remember that, and to hopefully grow on. That's I don't want to see that after I've left, or in 10 years time or 15 years time, that the club has shrunk or gone lower. I'm hopeful that we can grow basketball, and I'm hopeful that we can produce more Kierans, more Gareths, more Alis. It is a little bit concerned. There are a couple of younger ones coming through, but we've got to work harder to try to find and definitely identify them. So, yeah, I'm hopeful that there would be a longer term legacy that people will remember me for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons. That would be the easiest thing to say. Yeah?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Very nice to meet you
Good luck
all.
this season.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. Anytime you want to, any questions? Okay.